What's up guys, Perry from Rockville here, and today I'm going to show you how you can use your RPA40BT to create a multi-room home audio system. Now we have another video for the amplifier that goes over how to set up all the different controls, inputs, outputs, and functions for the amp, but in this video we're just going to go over how we can use the RPA40BT to create a 1 to 4 room audio system. Now the first thing we're going to want to decide when creating this multi-room setup is how many rooms exactly we want to have set up. This is going to determine the amount of speakers we need and where we're going to run our wiring. For this first example, we're going to have a 4-room setup where all of the speakers are playing in mono. So if we take a look at the back of the amplifier, you'll see we have 4 channels or zones labeled A through D. So we can treat each channel as their own room. So all of the wiring coming from channel A will go to room 1, all the wiring coming from channel B will go into room 2, and so on and so forth. And remember to set the amp to mono mode by using this button here on the back of the amplifier so that the left and right channels will play a balanced mix throughout each room. At this point we can decide how many speakers we want to have set up in each room. For each room we can either set up 16 ohm, 8 ohm or 4 ohm speakers, as long as the minimum impedance doesn't fall below 4 ohms per channel. To keep wiring simple, we recommend using parallel wiring, which means for each room you can use either 1 4 ohm speaker, 1 to 2 8 ohm speakers, or 2 to 4 16 ohm speakers. We don't recommend mixing and matching different speakers with different impedance, and if you need help with parallel wiring, check out a video we made on that. Now instead of wiring into the terminals for each channel on your amp, we can also set up a wall volume controller like our very own Vol 850 or Vol 855 between our first speaker and our amplifier, so that we have in-room volume control. So to do that, you're going to take the speaker wire coming from one of your channels of your amplifier, like channel A for example, plug it into the inputs of your volume controller. Then you're going to take the speaker wire coming from the first speaker of your chain and plug it into the output of your volume controller. You're going to want to repeat this process for all of the rooms you want a wall volume controller installed in. And for stereo setups, you're going to want to use both sets of inputs and outputs on your volume control. Now in each of these 4 rooms, you'll have independent volume control so you can fine-tune the sound around each room. If you have the volume controller in your setup, we recommend turning the volume on the controller all the way up, then go to the volume controls for each channel on your amplifier and bring them up right before the sound starts distorting. This will determine the max volume of each room so you can use the volume controller to set the volume freely. If you're not using the wall volume controller, you can just set the volume for each room right from the amp. Now we can also create a stereo multi-room setup, but we would only be able to create a 2-room setup because channels A and B would be grouped together for room 1 and channels C and D would be grouped together for room 2. So you would run the speaker wires coming from channels A and B to the speakers in your first room, and then take the speaker wires coming from channels C and D and run them into the speakers in the next room. The channels are labeled left and right for stereo mode, so just keep track of which speakers are going to be connected to which channels because they will correspond to the left and right audio. Also be sure to set your amplifier to stereo mode using the button on the back here. Just like in our mono setup, we can also set up a wall volume controller like the Vol 850 or Vol 855 because the volume controllers themselves are set up in stereo. So to do this, we're going to take the speaker wire coming from channels A and B of our amplifier, plug them into the left and right inputs on our volume controller. Next, we're going to take the speaker wire that's connected to our speakers and plug them into the left and right outputs on our volume controller. Then you're going to repeat this process for the second wall controller in the next room, and then you'll have independent volume control for your stereo setups in each room. And just like in our mono setup, we're going to set the max volume by raising the volume all the way up on our volume controller, then bring up the volume knobs for channels A and B or C and D until you hear the sound distorting. And again, this is going to set the max volume for each room, so then we can use the wall volume controller to set the volume freely. So hopefully this showed you guys how to create a multi-room home audio system with your RPA40BT. But of course, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to our customer support team through phone or email. As always, I'm Perry from Rockville, and we'll see you guys next time.